Welcome back, everyone. This is the City Delivery Committee, 4th of November. We are about to start at 9.2, the Centre Development Incentive Fund Annual Report 24-25, which is on our first agenda, page 70, and I welcome Emily McLean. Please take the report as read. We have discussed it, so I can promise you we have read it, but please update us on anything extras that you'd like us to be aware of. Thank you. Yep.
Pressing the wrong one. Very good. Thank you, Chair. I will do just that. So I just wanted to flag a couple of key points for noting. So just firstly that this report is for information only, and the recommendation is just to receive the report. I would say, though, this is the first time that this fund has come across your desks in this way, so I really welcome feedback, any suggestions for next steps that you want staff to look at. So open to hear that. I'd also note that this paper represents a really small investment in our city centre and not the broader infrastructure developments or investment going on in the city, such as Te Manawataki o Te Papa and the waterfront. But I guess what this fund tries to the gap between those major infrastructure projects and the day-to-day needs of businesses and users. So I guess we feel that we can't wait for these new developments to open. It's about taking care of the city right now and encouraging people to come in and spend time and spend money. I just wanted to mention, just to call out a couple of the value for money approaches and the way that we're looking at that with this fund. So the intention of the fund is to provide or focus on low cost, quickly trialled or tactical initiatives that will deliver immediate and visible benefits. Things like seeing the spike in retail spend over the International Buskers Day Out was a real positive. It showcases the city as a lively destination. We've tried to balance out the sheer extent of orange cones and construction hoardings with kind of tactical to the city, things like shopfront dressings, better lighting, murals and art trails. A small correction in that the Kiwi Art Trail ran for 6 weeks, not 2 weeks. And then obviously what the fund was initially set up for, which is to fund residential development feasibility studies, that kind of small upfront investment to assess the viability and risks to encourage developers to take the next big step. So that's probably it from me. Happy to answer questions.
Councillor Taylor.
Good morning. Thank you. One specific one and then sort of a general question. The specific one is on page 72, July 24, June 25, $50,000 on a feasibility study for the development of student accommodation in Spring Street. Can you maybe just give us a bit of who was it done by, what was the result, if any?
That is the one I can't answer. I'm sorry. I don't have much more information on that one. I will find that out for you.
If you could do, that'd be great. And then my second question goes back to the origination of this fund and what the main thrust of it was. I look at it and I go, if it's what I think it is, I think we've sort of gone a little bit off track and then maybe we need to come back into our lane. But perhaps if you could explain what the original idea of it was.
Yes, absolutely. So while it was before my time, I understand that the original intent or purpose of the fund was to stimulate and encourage that, in particular, residential development in the city centre. It was very much targeted at, as I said, allowing developers to take that next step by undertaking feasibility studies or paying for those feasibility studies. What we were finding at the time was that there wasn't a large take-up in that perhaps a $50,000 contribution to a feasibility study wasn't actually stimulating that next big step into starting a development. And so we also recognised that there was this gap between how the city was planning for its future and starting to develop with what the day-to-day needs were on the ground. So in about April 23, this fund was broadened to think about some of the really live issues that we were seeing. So things like business support, initiatives to increase foot traffic, parking initiatives, and that was at a time before we had our parking management person or team set up, and then obviously still that residential accommodation. I think it's something that we will continue to keep our eye on in terms of we're really aware of the equity across each of those streams, and it's not without trying to stimulate that kind of work.
Thanks.
And just comment from me in terms of that direction, I think we do need a vibrant city centre, and I think but we also want housing. That's one of enabling housing, so it's certainly, to me, that's something we should be focusing on. A couple of specific questions, and yeah, thanks for the report. It was useful. I did wonder what we needed it from a governance perspective, but you've said that it's providing information for us, which is great. Just in terms of the Winter Light and Arts Trail, so that's the one you've said was actually over 6 weeks, not 2, on page.
So on page 73, so
Yeah.
the Kiwi Art Trail, which sits just above that, the 15,000, that was for
that
6
was on-
weeks,
right,
not 2
okay.
weeks. Yeah.
So the first question is that the Winter Light and Arts Trail, did you get feedback? Nothing in here has said whether people have been impressed by it. Has it changed behaviour? Did the activations bring more visitors? So that one, I just wonder, I hadn't heard anybody comment on it. So do you have any feedback on that 80,000 spend?
Yes, so just to keep the report nice and brief, in the attachments, so page 84 of your agenda includes a little bit more detail on each of the initiatives undertaken. And so on page 84, it includes some quotes from happy attendees to the event.
Yeah.
In terms of the numbers, we haven't got some hard data on the foot traffic of those 2 weeks. But certainly from the feedback, those kind of anecdotal comments and quotes, we feel it was a real win for that winter season in the city, which is generally kind of a bit quieter. I would mention, though, that we did this over 2 weeks with 3 events for activations. So there were kind of additional face painting and roving musicians and things. That was probably too much. So we've really changed our tact and have recommended now that activations are very much concentrated on a weekend day or 2 days as opposed to spread over 3 weeks.
Thank you. And just in terms of the utilising vacant shop fronts, did the landlords participate financially at all?
So they haven't participated financially, but they have provided access to their buildings and approval to have the power drawdown. We provide a small contribution to power each month to support turning the lights on. But no contribution to the artworks themselves.
And do you know if any of the shops were leased? Sorry to steal your question, Councillor Taylor. Are you aware of any of the shops becoming leased because of this extra visibility?
I probably can't assume that it's a cause and effect relationship, but I can confirm 2 shops have been leased since this time. And I have to say it's actually been quite challenging to find other shop fronts to now move some of the activations into, because particularly coming into this busy season, there is a lot of interest out there without much interest from landlords saying, yep, we'll take these installations.
Thank you. Councillor Schuler.
Thank you. Thanks for the report. Just a quick question in terms of the choice of things that are done, and that may be in the report, I might have missed it, but is this something that we just work on internally, or what's the sort of discussions and communication with city centre businesses and the main street into how this fund can be most effectively used, particularly in light with what you're talking about not waiting for the big projects to kick in and save everyone in 5 years' time, but what can be done now? Could you give us a bit of detail on how that works with the people that are here at the coalface?
I think that's a great question, and it's something that we've grappled with as a project team or a fund team over time. It's not a fund that we have advertised like other funds seeking applications in, but it very much is responsive to the one-on-one conversations our engagement team have with city centre businesses. We're working really closely with Downtown Tauranga as a Main Street organisation, and in fact for some of the key initiatives there are routine kind of fortnightly catch-ups to make sure that we're leveraging the activations that each other are working on. I think it's a question of the scale of the fund and how much scope there is for businesses to apply in or make suggestions, but we're obviously welcome to it. We have the conversations. A lot of them are aware of the fund, but that could definitely be a space we could formalise, I guess.
There being no other questions, thank you, except for Councillor Crowther.
The 55,000, a city revitalisation strategy that closes the gap between aspirations and action, roadmap to achieve this. Like, do we have that roadmap? What sort of roadmap did we get in terms of delivering on, housing and everything else?
I have to say it's a pretty comprehensive roadmap. I guess, as it says, it's kind of looked to bridge this gap. So one of our, as I've talked to you about before, our North Star for the City Centre is the City Centre Action and Investment Plan. That still holds some pretty high level, we want to create a city for people, we want to increase residential development. And so this revitalisation strategy takes that next step to say exactly how are we going to do that and what are the roles of council and what are the roles of our key partners. Particularly Priority 1 and Downtown Tauranga again. So I have to say, as it relates to accommodation in particular, it's probably not news we haven't heard before. So things like testing the incentives for residential development, looking at feasibility studies, etc., development contributions, things like that. But it at least signals that those are really key pieces of work that we need to continue working on, which I know other parts of council are.
A quick second question was, earlier this year we got a spreadsheet which showed 194 million of capex over the decade. I think it might have been adjusted to 193 million in the central city. And then there was also another sheet that talked about the 45 million for, I believe, city centre bulk funds, which are the capital projects. And then there's an operating project budget of OPEX to support those capital projects. And then there's also the city streetscaping, I think that's called, that you've presented to us on before. And then there's the public art framework funding and other arts funding for the city centre as opposed to other parts of the city. And then, of course, there's the Te Manawataki budgets and things which have some of that, and the waterfront and so forth. So I guess they're all different budgets and they cross-link a lot, because you might have an artwork which is put in through one fund or another fund or another, three funds there that it could be. Capital investment could be through, say, Te Manawataki funding, or through the cityscape, or whatever, streetscape, city streetscape, or through this other capital fund. So it gets very hard to sort of track the whole thing, and I guess because it's...
Can we get to your question, Councillor Crowther?
Yeah, I'm just, that's why I'm trying to get there, is, so is there a way to just sort of have like the master spreadsheet with sheets, and ideally it'd add it all up, but just even just the separate funds with capital and OPEX all laid out, all the ones that impact directly on the city centre? Is that achievable, or is it behind the scenes, is it quite complex?
I'll certainly confer with my finance colleagues to see what is possible. I know we have surfaced that information for you before, so whether it's an update or it's a live table that a view into the city centre budgets, I think that's perfectly reasonable. I think probably the information you're after is some of the nuance or the detail around how are those, what initiatives or what comes are those funds actually supporting, because as you've said, there are some crossovers, but I do think as staff we're probably quite clear as to which fund we are using for what purpose. So if we can make that clearer for you, I'm sure we can.
I think that'd be really helpful. Yeah, thank you.
And we've got a question from Tangata Whenua Representative Jackie Rolleston-Steed.
Kia ora, thank you for that. Hey, just a quick question, particularly given we had the Tauranga Māori Business Association visiting on our previous city delivery, Hui, and some of the support that TCC have been providing there. Has there been a conversation, particularly in conjunction with your shopfront strategy, an opportunity to have a conversation with the Māori business networks or with the likes of Toi Kairawa, and also the Pacific Business Hub, who might like an opportunity to potentially feed into that strategy, knowing that there are a number of businesses that would be keen to establish some sort of a hub in the CBD?
I guess quick answer to that question is there's absolutely an opportunity, and that's just the type of feedback and direction we're after. So we can certainly action that approach and see what we can do. I do think that I think we need to continue to look at exactly what council can do versus what some of these other associations or organisations can do, and then where we can do things stronger in partnership. So really happy to take that as an action to look at. Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Emily. We have got a motion to, if somebody wants to move, thank you, Councillor Taylor. A seconder for the motion to receive the report. I'm happy to second that. Would you like to speak to it, Councillor Taylor?
Yeah, I think some good information. It's helped fill in some gaps that I had in my knowledge, so good to understand it. It'd be good to get some feedback on what we actually got out of it from a housing point of view. And I think going forward, we probably need to revisit the purpose of this and maybe get it back on track to where it was originally, because I think accommodation in the city centre is a very, very important subject that we need to wrestle with, and I think anything that can help us progress that agenda, we should be encouraging, because I think to get vibrancy in the city, you've got to have the people here, and I think if they live here, it's going to be much, much easier than trying to drag them in for entertainment purposes, for example.
Thank you. I reserve my right. Any other comments? Mayor Mahe.
Yeah, very much agree with Councillor Taylor's kōrero, and I guess when we look at what we can do as a council, we are never going to be able to drive vibrancy in the CBD. So we have to look at what we can do around the edges to help enable that. And some of our priorities are enabling housing, and obviously that vibrancy in the CBD. So I think we just need to get back to what can we do to actually help that vibrancy on just spending money in the CBD. Is an investment that others have come in and done. So what is it the next step if we believe, and I definitely do, that having people living in the CBD 24/7 is going to be a big input to that. So what are the things that we can do to directly influence that and enable that will certainly be the best value for money that we can spend, rather than some of the things around the edges that potentially might get people in here for a day or for an event, but that doesn't actually solve the problem going forward. So I'm very keen to get back to how do we get people actually living here and put our efforts into enabling that.
Councillor Carrick.
Yeah, totally agree and support the two previous speakers. We're putting investment into the CBD, in terms of providing amenity to attract more people. But it's a chicken and egg, isn't it? Because to me, the vibrancy is in the people. You've got to get the people here. The key to unlocking that is to provide affordable housing. It would be something which would be so attractive if we can get it affordable and to a point where young people would choose to live here rather than up Papamoa. Sorry, Steve. But how we do it is the challenge. I'm not sure what sort of incentives can be realistically put in place because, development, obviously, they do the sums and the market probably obviously isn't ready for the cost of that investment into delivering a product that would suit the market. But we need to keep focusing on that, and I certainly would like to see this fund go back to basics in terms of what it was originally intended to provide assistance to, and see what we could do. So, I'd prefer probably to refocus the current investment to something that would achieve more people living in the CBD, young people particularly.
Thank you, Councillor Crowther.
Yeah, I fully support the previous three speakers. In fact, when I heard the Mayor speaking, I started to think I was listening to a YouTube recording of me a year ago. But I think that the best way to proceed with it all, after we sort of refocus this fund, is to go out to our community around any of the, I guess what I'd see is quite a complex arrangement of funding for for city centre projects in the long-term plan. And in the annual plan, just to do a bit of a refinement of that by not completely upturning the LTP, but doing what we did last year, which is we cut this fund a bit. And I think we should test it out with the community, not so much the total even, it's more just where in the city it's spent, because we've heard a lot of feedback in our annual plan consultation this year and in the election campaign that, we've spent about, we're targeted to spend about $750 million in the city centre over about an 8-year period. And then there's all the operating expenditure as well, which we're talking about today, and it's how to get some equity across the whole city. And I think the best way to figure that out is to figure out what our people out there, how they see it. And I think I would stress that I strongly support people living here, but they don't have to live here. So Otomotai people are the biggest movement of people to the CBD from anywhere in the city. And so it's sort of, it's our CBD as well, even if we're not living here. So to me, it's just interesting where they would like the money spent is a good example, because often they would prefer it in Te Papa as opposed to Otomotai, depending on what the particular item is. But I think we just need to get a sense check of that and figure out if we need to refine that plan.
Councillor Schuler.
Did you look out the side of your eye there? I was very surprised you saw me.
Always aware.
Not disagreeing with my colleagues around the table, but I suppose I'd look at it from a bit of a different angle. The timelines for getting people to come and live here are not next week, within necessarily next year. So I certainly agree with the speakers that we do need to, that's a huge focus for the city going forward, but the city centre or the central business district needs to become a destination, and we need to, people come here and spend 4 or 5 hours, shopping, retail, hospo. Obviously, we know 9 to 5 business days. A lot of our activation is around rebuilding the heart of the business district, and then we've got a university. We want housing. We want people living in here, but not everyone lives at Arataki, but it's a pretty big place to go and shop and spend time. So I think it's a balance. While we do need to encourage and figure out ways to get more housing here to make people easy for people to walk down and enjoy the Strand, we also need to say, what do we do for a destination? And even more critically, while we are upgrading the city centre to make it the best in the country, how are we going to help the businesses that have to suffer through us breaking some eggs to make the omelette? So I think it's a real important balance. We heard at our community night the other day from one of the business owners on the Strand saying, hurry up and open up those crossings so that people that are playing on the park, the destination park, that brings thousands of people, so it's easy for them to get across to our businesses. So this fund can serve a few purposes, and we need to keep it there, I think. We've got a lot of work to do to help people in the city centre. We've made that commitment, we've made the investment, we've got to make it a success. I think we've got an obligation to take the businesses in the city centre with us. so that there is stuff here when all the building and the bricks are done.
I think, so I'll sum up as seconder that I 100% want to see more housing opportunities and to look at those, and I know there's a couple of things in the wind that this fund is looking at, but I also agree with Councillor Schuler that we actually do want the city to be vibrant, and we do need to keep that going if we can. Seeing the last 2 weeks with the Tauranga Arts Festival, with the Crystal Palace on the waterfront was amazing, and I think that vibrancy is something that we really need to keep encouraging. I also know we've got 1,300 people that work in and around this building, and I think we are wanting this, our team, the staff at TCC, to be part of that vibrancy. So that's all part of the conversations that I think we need to continue having. So thank you for the report. With a mover and a seconder, we have got a motion on the table. Can I ask all those in favour? And against? That is carried. Thank you. And we have got, are we having an exit from the Mayor and Councillor Rolleston at 12:30? Is there anything you wanted to change the conversation to cover off while you're here? Probably not going to be local government financing. Granada. So is everyone happy that we now go to the Granada Street pedestrian crossing options, which is 9.1, which is page 87 of the supplementary agenda for those online. Oh, but we might not have, oh, we do have Mike, wonderful. And so we've got Karen Hay and Mike Seaborn. Welcome again, Mike, and welcome, Karen. So we will take the paper as read. Are there any questions of our team? Councillor Taylor.
Hi guys. So this came to us in a previous meeting. We had a presentation from the people that had the retirement village next door, I believe. Their request was for a raised crossing on the street. I have concerns with raised crossings. We've had issues with them around the place when we've put them in before. My question really is there another option that maybe it's, I don't know, some kind of ripple strip or something that can simulate or indicate that there's a crossing coming up without actually going to the trouble that it causes when we do take these things into the air?
Through you, Madam Chair, the specific challenge with Granada Street is that the majority of vehicles are at or below 57 k's. That's 1,000 vehicles travelling between way above that speed limit, well into the 60s. And there isn't a way of reducing those speeds to meet. And the repercussion of that is that either we, at a national level, we wouldn't get approval or endorsement to install a zebra crossing. It would need to be a signalised crossing. And there's very limited options in terms of alternatives to achieve those desired speeds, to bring them back down to a reasonable, within even a 40, 50 kilometre speed limit range. We agree with you, though, that we don't promote any further speed tables. It's only in exceptional circumstances such as this.
Through you, Madam Chair, and just to add to that, the two problems we're trying to solve are the speed problem and then the access problem across the road. So the speed tables naturally solve that better than any other kind of solution would. So in the primary purpose, it's about the speed, but in the secondary purpose, it's about the access across, and that's part of why we got some potential funding to help with this.
Councillor Schuler.
This is going to sound like a bit cheeky question, but speed cameras? Like, I mean, we're crossing into, because I suppose the question, and totally get the accessibility, totally get the speed issue, but we have seen issues we've had where we have put in raised crossings does affect emergency services, the speed they can travel. It's our job, is it, to slow speeds down from 80 to 70 to 50, whatever it has to be. Has there any discussions with the police or the traffic enforcement about actually figuring out a way to make people pay when they break the law?
Speed cameras are a program of speed limit rollouts, or management of speed cameras is managed centrally by NZTA, and they are deployed at high-risk roads that are identified at a national level, and unfortunately we have asked for a number of locations within, but they unfortunately not ranked high enough to be able to receive those. And it's basically based on the number of death and serious injuries per kilometre of road. So this section, correct. And we haven't got, yeah.
Me Mahe.
Yeah, so probably a bit of a follow-up to Rod's question, and you know, we sort of said, talked about what else has been considered, but you know, from a staff perspective, do you believe that this is the best solution that we have for delivering a crossing in this area?
This might be a two-stage answer. So short answer is yes. The other sort of alternatives you have create sort of unintended consequences and other negative behaviour, so chicanes and other things like that. Not really great on that type of arterial. At least with the raised safety platforms, we can adjust the ramps so that they're not really aggressive, and we can monitor that, and we can change what we have out there if we had to. And this, you know, the purpose is to reduce speed, and these things are effective at doing that. And when the speed reduces, the risk and injury to pedestrians, anyone on there, reduces exponentially.
Yeah. And sorry, just for clarification, we're talking one crossing on Granada and one crossing on Maranui, is that right?
Through you, Madam Chair, one zebra crossing on a raised platform to support access to the pavilion, and there's currently a pedestrian refuge island, and that is also proposed to have a raised table on it, but no crossing.
Okay, so they're both on Granada Street?
They're both on Granada Street, correct.
Okay. Did they not bring up the Maranui Street?
We have got Maranui Street as part of the Maranui Road reconstruction works.
Okay.
So yes, the village has brought that up. So we've indicated that this is potentially a priority at the moment.
Yeah. Now, I don't want to, REC publicly excluded and bring that up in the meeting, but I guess, you know, those costings, are we confident that that is, significant? I guess, like that is sort of the actual cost, and I note that there's a whole lot of sort of percentages and things like that. So I'm assuming if we're paying percentages, then we're paying the actual cost of traffic management, the actual cost of the materials, and we're not getting done twice on a margin?
Through you, Madam Chair, no, not being done twice. I think there has been two times we've talked to you about costs. One was the Papamoa footpath, and now the same here. So just with regard to that, that was the last data point you had around what PNG and temporary traffic management may cost. Since then, we're seeing prices for temporary traffic management come down below that hourly rate in that estimate. So what you've got in there is an estimate. We expect to come under that for the temporary traffic management. And we're certainly getting better prices already. In terms of the other elements, it's definitely something we're looking at, really testing each of those prices that we get, and it is as part of that process of going out to procurement. So this is an upper end estimate, absolutely, and we expect that cost to be less. So we've given you an estimate. If we are managing a risk that is cars travelling past our site at high speed, this is what we would need to spend in order to reduce that risk. But we think we can do better than that in the current market conditions, but we're giving you that as our risk profile.
Yeah, I guess we're talking, just the square metre rate of asphalt, because we do have that P&G margin. So, I would argue that is not the actual square metre rate that you should be paying of what that cost is, if you're paying a P&G and you're paying that. So I just think those are the things, because, I'm not going to disclose what the numbers are because they are confidential, but, I don't believe that they are accurate of the actual cost of putting, metres of asphalt down.
And through you, Madam Chair, so we're looking at those numbers, and in the same way, we're looking at whether that rate already includes an overhead and other things like that. So we are absolutely looking at those things.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we want to push on that.
Yeah.
Councillor Crowther.
In terms of the design of the platforms, firstly, are they the same under either the options 2 or 3? So it'd still be the same gradient to sort of get up there on a table or a crossing. It'd just be one would have lines painted on it, the other one wouldn't. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yes.
And then the second one is, in light of our previous experience in at least 2 locations, what are we thinking in terms of being on probably the city's key public transport route apart from Cameron Road and the electric buses and all that sort of stuff? So context, as you know, but for anyone listening, is that Cameron Road absolutely ruled out anything like this because of buses, apart from other reasons. And one of the arguments was the volume of traffic. Now, you're using the volume of traffic as a reason to put it in. And I'm just a bit worried that we're kind of almost cross-arguing with ourselves on this.
Through you, Madam Chair, we have really considered the volume of traffic and the percentage of heavy vehicles, including buses. They're not insignificant. When we met with Graham from Generous Living, we went through some design parameters, and there is an option. This is a functioning as an arterial, we acknowledge that, but its function and use in terms of placemaking and the safety issue with the speed, the alternatives are limited. So there's a national standard where you can apply specific design parameters for these sorts of routes that include, without getting too technical, the ramp is far less severe, the tabletop is wider, and it's a Swedish style that has a low that reduces and has been used in other arterial routes across, in fact, Welcome Bay Road is one here in Tauranga, and many across other areas. Yeah.
One quick follow-up is, I guess, if you look at, say, a comparison of the type of raised crossings put in on, well, Levers Road, the Cherrywood one, and then on around Windsor, Bellevue, and there's this sequencing of people are aware of that, of steepness of the gradients. But the argument for putting a steeper gradient was it won't work if we put a lower gradient. So to kind of, I guess, just challenge that view, are we compromising safety by putting in a lower gradient? Because the whole argument for putting in these steep gradients was that the lower gradient ones don't work.
So it's the grade, the height, and the depth, the length of the crossing that makes the difference, and it's the off-ramp. So the off-ramp is 1 in 40, and many of those others would be 1 in 15. So it's up, over and down. Where this is up, so it's still achieving a speed reduction to travelling speed between 35 and 45. Some of them are designed to 30k, and it just depends on the environment. I hope that makes sense.
So it sounds like you're quite confident this is, you've got the sweet spot. So, yeah.
I think what we're suggesting is that creation of noise is we can't avoid it. We've highlighted that to Generous, living to say, look, these are some of the compromises. You potentially could have the impression of some vibration. Are we sure we'll design it as best we can? It then isn't a design issue, it is to be expected. And are you comfortable and generous? And Mr. Wilkinson has supported that we continue and recommend this to you for consideration.
Councillor Schuler.
Thanks, taking up a lot of your time. Just as a measure for us to understand, what's the difference between this as the best option in terms of its effectiveness, and then, I mean, what is the second best option? Or is this the only option?
I think that's a $161,000 question. This is our recommended option because it solves a multitude of problems. And then what we do if we went to something like a chicane, you just start to buy other problems around vehicle tracking and how visible they are at night and whatnot. So to give you the relative difference in this location would be a tricky thing for us to stand behind and sort of give to you now. But to explain it is that, particularly on this arterial, that solution is the one that we recommend to do both of those things around the access and the safety at the same time. All the rest will require more design and more careful thought through to make it work, and that just gets quite a lot harder. So we've gone for a very quite simple option there.
Okay, thank you, Chair. And I suppose with that as well, you're saying that you've discussed this clearly with the most affected people, which are the ones that want it, and they're fully in support.
Through you, Madam Chair, that's correct. And just adding to what Mark was suggesting, there is another alternative, and that's to signalise the crossing. And it's particularly because it's very unusual to have those levels of speed, but that is at a significantly higher cost. But it is an option for council to think about.
I guess I'm just sort of sense checking the money side of it. So the Cherrywood raised pedestrian crossing and raised speed table was around, my understanding is around 300,000 for those components. So we're significantly less, but we're talking about the same kind of thing. Are we confident of the numbers? And that's the mere question them from, are they too high? I'm questioning it based on previous investments by this council. Are they too low in our estimate, and will we get a bit of a shock at the end of it all?
We've really carefully looked at the potential costs, and there is some risk allocation within it. One of the significant differences to Cherrywood is there is some street lighting and power supply nearby, so that immediately reduces costs, and we've got new infrastructure such as pram crossings and footpaths.
Thank you. So that's the end of the questions. Thank you, Mike. Thanks, Karen. So we've got there's a recommendation. Is anyone prepared to move that recommendation or parts thereof? Question, yes.
Just in regard to resolution B, there's an or
Yeah, I saw
in the
that.
resolution. So what does that mean? Does that mean pick and choose, or is it? Okay.
Normally we'd use or where we think it's purely a political call, and there are options for you to take.
So we should, when we put the motion, we should take the or out.
Yep.
So have one or the other. Right.
I'm happy to move B2, or the second part of B, although I defer to my colleague, Councillor Curack. Yeah. Yeah.
So moved by Councillor Morris, seconded by Councillor Curack. So the option to bring it forward ahead of other scheduled work delivery for full year 26.
Sorry, was that Councillor Morris?
Morrison, correct? And we've got after full year 26. We've got, is this called an amendment, or this is part of the substantial? After FY 26 within existing budgets? You may.
Clarification sought from the mover and seconder. Are you happy with the wording ahead of scheduled works, given we heard this morning that it still likely will be 39 million or thereabouts under the CapEx budget? So that implies we have to shove some things out, or are you happier to have it without those words there, which gives a bit of flexibility?
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Crowther, for that. And as much as resolutions passed at the council table are interpreted, maybe it's better to remove ahead of other scheduled works, given the underspend that's forecast in the CapEx program.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
For delivery, so
Councillor
for
Crowther,
delivery
thank
in this year.
Are we happy to take that out?
You're happy with that, what's on?
Take it out? Yep.
You may.
Yeah, thank you. Speed humps have caused a bit of consternation up and down the country, and the government, of course, removed substantial funding for them because the feeling was that perhaps the pendulum had swung too far and that there were too many of these things going on, and they were slowing down travel times to work and that sort of thing. But in exceptional cases, you've got to argue that they're necessary. And so in this particular case, we have a retirement village. We have, it's no secret, people who are older have mobility challenges. And if you only have to look back to 2019, where there was that tragic incident of the gentleman on his mobility scooter who was killed on Maranui Street at a crossing which was not raised. And I know that there is concern about whether this might slow down emergency vehicles trying to get to where they're going, but I had a look at when this debate was held in Christchurch recently, and councillors were challenging emergency service staff about whether having speed humps was going to slow down response times. And just quoting from the Christchurch Press here, Acting Director of Road Policing Inspector Peter McKinney said police did not have any data to suggest that speed humps cost lives in an emergency. He said police support roading infrastructure that reduces harm and encourages safe driving. Fire Emergency New Zealand spokesperson said they support the overall goal of safer roading networks, including traffic calming, including speed humps. And he said that increased response times were an occasional trade-off to that. And Hatohone St John said that raised platforms did require ambulances to reduce speed, but that the organisation had not seen any evidence that speed humps impact negatively on response times and patient outcomes. So we've got to balance those two things there.
Councillor Carrack.
Support everything the previous speaker has mentioned, and you know, in visiting the site and eyeballing this situation here, and appreciating that road is a very, it's like a freeway, it's very wide, and I can understand why the speeds are what they are. And so, given the new pavilion that's opening, which will, you know, create a lot of cross movement along that road, you know, to me it's an excellent way to happen unless we do something. That's why I'm actually supportive of bringing the project forward. Thank you to Councillor Morris. If we can do it, it should be done, because it's a priority thing. You know, other projects out there, you know, probably won't, if, you know, actually impact safety as much as this one would by providing this facility. So strongly supported.
Are there any contrary views? Okay, so we've got a motion on the table. I'm not going to read it out, but just the mover and seconder are happy with the changes that have been made to the report. All those in favour, please say aye. And against, that is carried Thank you. Looking at the time, we've got the CCOs coming in at 1 o'clock. Unless we want to very quickly do Local Government Funding Agency annual report. Councillor Crowther's got questions on that, so that's a no. I think we will break for lunch and resume here back, please, about 5 to 1, just so we are back in when the CCOs are here, please. So welcome everyone, and we've got additional. We don't need to do apologies. We know Mayor Mahe and Councillor Rolleston have been called away. Councillor Morris is returning, I believe, and we've got Tangata Whenua representative Jackie Rolleston-Steed on Zoom today. So we are now on 9.4, local government. No, we're not.
9.5.
9.5, council-controlled organisations, annual reports 24-25, and Caroline is introducing this. Thank you, Caroline.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I'll just do a quick intro prior to the CCOs presenting. So according to the legislative requirements, our CCOs are required to report every half yearly and annual as well. Up to this point, they presented twice to council. So exactly 5 months ago at the City Delivery Committee meeting, they presented their half yearly highlights for financial year 25. And last year on the 29th of October, they presented on their annual report highlights for financial year 24. So, Deputy Mayor, according to the legislation, if required, a shareholder can ask a CCO in writing for quarterly updates as well. Yeah. So in terms of today's presentation, the CCOs have been fully briefed, and the order of the presentation is the order of my cover report. So we will kick off with Bay Venues. And in terms of the slides, all the CCOs have slides, which is up on the screen, and except for Bob Lass. Yeah. So if it's okay with you, Deputy Mayor, I'll just get Bay Venues to come up to the presenters table.
Yes, please. Thank you, Caroline. And so we have given a suggestion. We have got a timer, and we are suggesting a 6-minute presentation and time for questions. Welcome, Julie and Chad.
There we go. Kia ora koutou. Nice to see everyone again and be able to update you. As you've mentioned, I've got Julie Hardacre, our Deputy Chair, with me today. Also Adam Elmers, one of our General Managers, who can help answer any tricky financial questions. Apologies from Simon Clark, our Board Chair. He's away on other business. I'll jump straight into this because I know we've got a tight time frame. Do we have the timer counting down?
Yep, it's already started.
Top left corner, very good. Okay, it's hard to see. So I'll move through this reasonably quickly. You've all got our annual report, so you've had a chance to have a look at that. Just wanted really to probably overview and say that we have achieved a lot in the 2025 financial year, but it had quite a few challenges from a financial perspective, and I just wanted to maybe focus on that a bit initially. Initially, it came through where we were getting financial pressures from the economy not being great, so we were seeing the same number of people coming through our aquatic facilities, for example, but they were spending less, and that was adding up over the course of the year, along with the event business not being quite so strong, which you'd expect in a struggling economy. So we responded and made quite a few changes to save a lot of money in the FY25 year. And that was a big effort for us. That included restructuring the organisation, it included cutting back on costs, it included a lot of focus on trying to drive extra revenue where we could in the organisation as well to offset that. So with all of that work, that was probably a $700,000 saving that we had to make. And then that's also flowed through into the current financial year with extra savings that council have required. So over the last 18 months, we've probably, saved or generated extra revenue to the tune of about $1.4 million, which is quite significant for, a medium-sized organisation like ours. We are operating quite lean with that as well, so we are having to be very careful around what projects we try and pick up to improve the business, and our team are under pressure, but they're coping with that at the moment. So with that, we're really pleased that we were able to deliver a surplus at the end of the financial year. We were very focused on making sure that we hit our numbers. With all of that, we did also deliver quite a lot of benefit to the community. So we didn't really drop any of our levels of service. Visitation through the facilities was slightly ahead of where we were expecting to be and very close to last year. We also managed to maintain our customer satisfaction ratings with all of that as well. So overall, I think the team did an amazing job of being able to deliver great outcomes in spite of us having to manage through restructures and cost savings on the way through. Moving on to our KPIs and the targets that we had to hit. We hit most of those, and as I've said, we managed to achieve budget and visitation and customer satisfaction, which are probably the key ones that you would expect us to be on track with. We did miss a few, and there are some explanations for those that are sitting in our annual report and also in Caro's cover report. What I might just speak to briefly there is things like the energy consumption we didn't hit. We had budgeted to put solar panels in. Some of our buildings are a bit older, and so we had to figure out which buildings we could get solar panels on, so it took us a bit longer to do that. So they didn't actually get installed until closer to the end of the year, so we haven't seen the savings from those start to roll through yet, but we are seeing that in the current financial year. The other one I'll just mention is around working with Tangata Whenua. So we have had some really good wins in terms of the relationship with Mana Whenua. I think particularly we're working closely with Ngā Pōtiki around the Bay Park Master Plan, and also with the opening of Haumaru, we're working with Ngā Tamaruaho and Ngāti Tapu around that facility opening. So there's been some good things there, but we just haven't formalised things. But our board has asked us to keep focused on that, and so we do have a plan to actually bring more focus to that in the current year, which we're working on at the moment. In terms of some highlights, I've talked about that strong financial discipline and being able to return a surplus. Opening Haumaru was a real success for us, and that facility has been going really well since it opened. And that facility, along with Queen Elizabeth Youth Centre, you've probably heard me say it before, are operating at full capacity at peak times and have been since day one. And yeah, the community is giving us great feedback there. A range of other highlights here. I think catering, we opened a couple of cafes during the year, which came with partnerships with council at the Historic Village and with the University of Waikato at their Tauranga campus. So we've also got the event catering rights for those sites as well, which is the key driver for us in those relationships. Had a lot of large events through the facility, particularly over at Bay Park. So that's been really successful, and also opening the Revolution Skate Centre over there has been a real win and a different use coming into our facilities. Also just mention briefly the community halls, and I'm not sure how often you get out to our community halls, but they're quite old buildings, most of them. Haven't had a lot of love over the past decade or so, but they got a bit of attention. And again, we've got user groups have given us great feedback around the investment in those facilities, just making them, basically looking after them and getting them to the standard that enables them to be fit for purpose.
Just noticing you've got 4 seconds before
4
question
seconds.
time. We do need to keep to time.
National recognition, we've won a couple of awards and finalists for a few others, which we're really excited about. Looking ahead, we've still got a focus around financial discipline. We're working closely around the Bay Park Master Plan, Speedway and Netball, implementing that, and working with council around the Memorial Aquatic Centre. We've opened Te Puke Pool and working on Katikati shortly, and also continue to have challenges around antisocial behaviour. So those are probably the key points
Thank you,
for
Chad.
us.
I will now ask for any questions. Councillor Roseboom.
I'm Bix one. Since we've arrived at in this office, we've noticed there's a massive deficit of community infrastructure relating to sport. Like we've just had the new courts, we're discussing a pool. Which area of the city needs the greatest amount of love around community infrastructure, around field grass sports?
If I can answer that in terms of the types of facilities we need more water space, leisure, structured sport, hydrotherapy, learn to swim. We're under significant pressure at Baywave in particular. We've got record numbers going through that facility. That would be our number one priority, and then indoor courts would be our number two priority. So those are the two things that we desperately need more of at the moment.
Councillor Crowther.
Yeah, I gave the council team a bit of a heads up, so I think hopefully they talk to you. In terms of some financial questions, just trying to get my head around the whole, like what goes from council to BVL overall. So we've got the debt servicing grant, which was lower, but presumably because there's been a $15 million loan write-off, and so presumably that's because of assets that are owned by VVL or potentially jointly owned. So it's just to get a bit of clarity firstly on that whole issue of how the money exchange takes place in terms of the loan, the debt and the asset ownership itself.
Okay, I might get Adam to speak to that for us.
Reg to go.
Red's
in this
go.
case, yeah.
Yeah, so thanks. We did get a heads up on those questions that came through, and I think Susan and Catherine have sent some responses by email, but I'll also attempt to answer them as well, and hopefully we'll be saying the same thing. But yeah, so our debt servicing costs have gone down. At the beginning of last financial year, we had a funding reset, and there was a few different elements to that. There was obviously the debt adjustment to our debt, which was a debt to equity conversion of 15 million. We had an increase to our operating subsidy, and along with that was a decrease to the interest grant, or what was known as the debt retirement grant at the time. So all of those things happened at the same time last year, and so you'll see the kind of impact of those year on year going up and down. The debt that we do hold is in relation to Bayvenue's assets, so assets that were essentially transferred to Bayvenue's ownership when Bayvenue's was born back in 2013. So that's predominantly the debt that we hold.
I guess I want to go one step deeper. What is the 15 million write-off? So we haven't got any answers that I've seen to those questions. Is the debt lower because of, the debt servicing grant lower just because of that, or is there something else going on as well that we can't see? And is the internal council debt servicing now the same cost as what we were paying before when you held the debt? Because someone's got to pay for the servicing, presumably. So is there any difference in cost to ratepayers depending on that? So those are the three specific questions relating to debt that I was keen to get an answer on.
Effectively, we're all part of the same wider group, and so whether the debt sits with Bayvenues or with council, it's still part of the group. So there is no difference in the cost to ratepayers from that.
Yeah, so that being the case, I guess it gets a bit dangerous to sort of talk about the OPEX funding in isolation because some of it's baked in and some's not. The other question was around the 9 million increase in renewals funding. Is that because of the policy around depreciation?
No.
So what actually drove that increase?
So I think the first thing to remember is that renewals do tend to be lumpy. They're not going to go in a straight line, and that when you have bigger projects that there will be some spikes in that. And so the current financial year, for example, we've got a lot less in our renewals budget. So when we're having this conversation next year, you'll see there'll be a drop in what that looks like. The other thing with that is that there has been a significant underinvestment in facilities, in our facilities over the last probably 10 to 15 years. So, for example, there had been no renewals expenditure at Bay Park other than the arena. And so we've started the process of trying to upgrade and replace things, as they are wearing out or have worn out. And a good example being the halls, which I mentioned before. So they hadn't had a lot of investment, and we've spent, I can't remember the exact number, I think it was, I don't know, $500,000 or something to improve those that work hadn't been done for many years. So there's quite a bit of catch-up expenditure, and it will go up and down.
I think we need to finish it off there. We've got another 5 to go. So are you happy to take email questions if necessary?
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll come back to Councillor Crowther on his questions that have come through.
Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you.
Tauranga Art Gallery Trust, welcome. And sorry, we don't intend to be rushing, but we just want to make sure we are delivering from the delivery committee. Welcome, Alan and Sonia.
Starting my own timer, just in case.
Red is go.
Oh, red's go. Kia ora koutou, everyone. On the eve of the reopening of the gallery, we have our pōwhiri next Thursday, the 13th, and a wonderful civic event on the 14th, and I look forward to welcoming and celebrating with you all at that moment. But looking to the year that has been, we may have had a building that was closed, but we have been exceptionally active as a team. Here you can see a photo of us opening our art storage. We had to design and fund a new art storage due to the capital development with rejigging of the spaces within the building. And I'm really pleased to say that it's actually bigger than our previous storage, which means we can do more with it as well. To the right there is the project team. It's been an absolute pleasure to be working with Tauranga City Council staff project team on the development of the gallery. It's been a really collaborative and a huge learning experience for all. Big smiles there, it must have been a good day. We also had time to put on exhibitions within the community and within our own spaces as well. And there's a wonderful Frances Hodgkins show there that you can see. We took art tours as well, taking our friends of the gallery and members over to Kirikiriroa, Wanganui and other places too. Our educators flipped our program round and we worked directly with schools rather than bringing schools into the gallery. And we particularly focused on schools that we didn't have a relationship with. So when we reopen, it means that we've built that relationship and they will come along to our programs. Our beautiful collection, you now know, is within here, within the Tauranga City Council buildings, and it's wonderful to see that showcased alongside our civic collection too, and a pleasure to collaborate with the heritage team in hanging the works as well. Te Kahu o Hiniwa, our Māori advisory group, have cast a Te Ao Māori lens across our business, have been an absolute pleasure to work with, and particularly as we work up towards our ceremonies in the forthcoming week. Also, we've taken the time to do a deep dive and develop a new tohu, a new brand for the gallery, and Toi Tauranga Art Gallery that is, and it's just been wonderful to roll that out across all platforms, including the new website that will be launching on Monday as well. We haven't been resting on our laurels, we've been developing exhibitions, and it can take up to 3 years to develop a show, and that's why sustainable income and long-term partnerships are really important too. On the left there is an Amo Funtama Pohori carved in 1896, and I particularly highlight this work here because we worked with both the library and the Heritage Collection to be able to do the research, writing and presentation of this work. It's part of our opening show showing an expanse of 130 years of carving practice. It was actually a really innovative work at the time. It was carved with steel tools, which were a new tool to our carver. How am I going for time? Right. We didn't hit all our KPIs. The main reason we didn't hit them all, 5 were not achieved, is the work program was pushed out and we were unable to open the gallery, and those 5 KPIs were tied up closely with the reopening of the gallery and visitor satisfaction, numbers and delivery of experiences and exhibitions. I'm going to hand over to Alan. You want to start with the finances?
Yes. Get the slide there. The numbers in the annual report are a little bit confusing. You've got a really large income item that doesn't normally appear in a very large expense item. So just for the purpose of this meeting, we've broken it into 2, which shows the operational result, which was a $269,000 surplus, small surplus, which was higher than budget. But because of the delay in the opening of the gallery, some of the costs were pushed out a little bit, and we'll see a slightly higher deficit the following year to offset. And then the other one, the building project, is a number of transactions we were required to recognise based on the advice of the auditors, and also because the council themselves recognised their cost to date on the project, although it was not complete at the time, and we basically required to have an offsetting entry in our line to offset the numbers in the council's figures. So that gave a slightly strange result for the year, but the operational result was the figure on the left there, a $269,000 surplus.
Wonderful. Thank you. Are we?
Use the last minute just to talk through our new trustees.
I'm sorry. Sorry, I'm filling in for the chair here, so just get the full script. Okay, we've welcomed new trustees this year. Alana Winiata Kelly, who's our Māori representative, and we're thanking departing members Siska Vogelzang and Sylvia Wilson, and we thank them for their services. And we also welcome David Garouge to the board and Grace Hakaraya as the board intern, and more recently Tania Berriman. Trustees are, as well as Rosemary, who's not here as our chair, Wayne Walden, Wayne Werder, and myself as audit and finance chair, and then we have the others as per outlined.
We welcome your questions.
Thank you. I'm going to start. We did get a branding update from Te Manawa Take o Te Papa recently, and it was beautiful, and it was, I guess, a little bit sad to think that that didn't include the Tauranga Art Gallery as well. You've done a separate branding. Can you just briefly say why you wish to do a separate branding than being part of Te Manawa Take o Te Papa?
Oh, absolutely. So we are 100% part of Te Manawa Take o Te Papa, but as you know, we are a CCO of council and an independent trust and an art gallery, and retaining our own visual identity, albeit as part of Te Manawa Take o Te Papa, which will be across all our branding too once it has been released, and we look forward to that.
Any other questions? Councillor Carratha.
Just a question to staff in terms of access for elected members to information from CCOs. Is that, I noticed the, what is it called, Local Government System Improvements Amendment Bill is quite explicit about access for elected members to all information held by the local authority, but it seems to be a little bit lacking in clarity around whether CCOs are included. So do we have any understanding of whether CCOs can refuse information once this bill has been turned into an Act of Parliament?
No, I don't know that for a fact. Obviously it's still a bill at the moment. When it becomes enacted, there may be some commentary through Hansard which will help on that, but at the moment it's not clear, no.
What is the situation now in regards to the Local Government Act and other legislation?
I don't think there's anything in the Local Government Act itself, and you've got your own legal advice which you shared the other day, which is possibly as accurate as anything, but as accurate as anything.
Which part of the advice you mean? Just could you just state the advice?
I haven't got it.
Oh no, sorry,
so
that's just the advice.
I don't have it in front of me, so I can't quote it. So.
So there was just a conversation about, we are also excited about the opening this week, and about the presentations we've seen, and It's taken a wee while to get here. There's been a number of conversations, including an in-house here, our cafe downstairs, the number of cafes opening around our CBD, and whether within council-controlled organisations or within buildings of ours, those cafes are actually competing with commercial cafes. And so we did also I'd just like to understand, what's the risk if your cafe doesn't get enough participation doesn't get enough people coming? What's the risk that we as your governors need to be aware of in terms of any terms you've got with those, or how that might be managed, please?
Thank you. You've identified something that is prevalent, particularly across the country for art galleries and indeed for anyone in the cafe business. One of the key criteria that we looked at when we were seeking expressions of interest was that they needed to be an existing business. And because, as you probably read, we only have 28 to 33 covers. It's a very petite cafe, and so they needed to be an existing business within the Bay of Plenty that could extend their business essentially with a satellite. It's a heat and eat. We do not have a commercial kitchen in the cafe.
Thank you. Wonderful. With 10 seconds to go, thank you very much. Nice to have you here, and all the very, very best.
Ngā
It's
mihi
wonderful.
nui.
You are part of the vitality that we're wanting in the city. So, as you all are, everyone here, you've all come into the city. So I now welcome Tourism Bay of Plenty. Russ Brown and Oscar Nathan, welcome, and you've heard the strictness of our rules on timing, please. Thank you. Your time starts now.
Tuatahi, kia ora tātou katoa, ki a koe te tiamana, me ki rā, ngā memo te komiti, tēnā koutou, kia ora tātou. Thanks everybody for having us. We all know why we're here, so we'll get into it, because we've only got 6 minutes to talk and then a couple of minutes to answer. But it's, I suppose just starting off, if we can. For us, it's been a great year. We, as you would have already read, we achieved 8 of our 10 KPIs. Those were down from 30 odd something a couple of years ago. In respect to the 2 areas that we did not achieve, one was not achieved in respect to our cultural well-being, in respect to we've got more projects to go in that space. We've got some projects that are underway, yet to be completed. Some were timing that were beyond our control, and some are opportunities that we're about to develop in the next week or so. And so one of those is the expansion of our digital kiosk, particularly in and around Pukehinahina and the storytelling aspect of our digital kiosks. So there's some things there, some things we have achieved significantly in terms of getting Ngāti Hangarau and Te Rere o Manua Falls not just open, but brochured and selling on cruise ships. So we've achieved some pretty good things in there, but for us, there's just more of a challenge to be achieved in those spaces. In terms of, if we just have a look at the funding levels, again, just to reiterate, and just really conscious of the value for money definition that TCC put to all the CCOs, we believe that we are still delivering significant value for money, particularly in comparison to the regions around us. If we were to take Rotorua as an example, that for every dollar invested, they're returning about $133 on the same metrics that we have, and we're just under $300 in terms of that cost per resident. We're very conscious of the need to improve visitor spend and stay in the region, and that's been a key focus for a lot of our programs throughout the year. So we'll just go to the next one. In terms of our financials, nothing too much to report there. You can see the figures are within cooee of each other. We've made sure that we've heard your message about being prudent. We've each year shaved bits and bits off in terms of our delivery, but we've made sure to manage within our budget and ensure that we've also come out with a very clean audit this year. So we're nothing to see there. Happy to answer any questions, obviously, later on. Cruise is probably, I wanted to highlight this because there's always a misconception around cruise. So nationally, the cruise sector is under strain, so cruise visitation numbers are down. However, Tauranga is probably the only cruise port in the country that's bucking that trend. So a quick way to see that is you look at last season's arrivals and you look at this season's arrivals. We're only down a smidgen, despite being down on total number of cruise ships from 90 last year to 83. The size of the cruise ships that are coming are bigger than last year. So we're getting and we're holding that capacity and we're holding the number of people. So we still have that fantastic challenge of making sure that we're doing more with people and retaining them in the region when they do visit us. Next one, just to touch on in terms of the other key program is really making sure that we tell our horticultural provenance story. Flavours has gone from strength to strength. You can see the metrics there in terms of the number of events now that we run within the Flavours Festival, the ticketing revenue. Just a reminder, we basically put the profits that come out of Flavours go back to the running of Flavours, and they also go directly to the operators themselves as part of a wider platform that is there to encourage, particularly when it's tough times, as you would have heard from Sonia, around hospitality and retail. So we're really proud about the effort in Flavours. And just last week, we were announced as one of 19 events that Air New Zealand conferred a partnership on to further grow and establish. And that's going to help us, particularly as we cross-message potentially into Australia. Really quickly, in terms of the other programs outside of those key platforms, you can see, you would have read the report, you can see that what we've been delivering there, it's all around smart city digital. It's about where do we deliver better bang for buck, we be smarter. Our partnerships, as I said, with Mana Whenua, we've done some great stuff with Omanawa Falls. We've got other experiences to offer there. Working heavily with Gareth and Marty and others on the hotel development and attraction piece in terms of, puffing out that next part of our offering, which is having more commercial bed nights available in the city. We're a big city, we're growing, but we've got some infrastructure, not just roading, but we need accommodation. So those are some other areas we've been working on. And probably just touch on Sonia's team. We had the team with us for the whole year, so we squeezed up, shared the love, literally squeezed up our office, because when they said they had nowhere to stay, they moved in and knocked on the door with us, and we missed them actually. So it was great having Sonia and her team with us.
Me, from a governance and direction point of view, we've had two long-serving trustees leave us in June 25. Claire Swallow and Jason Hill had both done 6-year stints, so we lost a lot of experience when they went, but gratefully we've managed to bring on two very good trustees for where we're heading right now. So we've got Brian Staunton and Megan Fleming, both appointed in July. Thank you for those who helped us with the interview process. They've been great and they've hit the ground running. You can see under 25 to 28 direction, the key things in there are year-on-year improvements, funding alternatives. We know that we're under pressure from that avenue and we're looking to see what we can do to help contribute to that. Robust data and qualitative benchmark metrics. Everybody knows it's about specifics in terms of what we're achieving. That all took a knock in the last couple of years with the information that was being gathered. We're working hard in the industry to make sure we can get really quality information and measure ourselves for how we're performing. Demonstrating ROI, that's a standard for all CCOs, I'm sure, and then our Place brand project is the other project that we've got going on with attendance from both councils that are funding us. That's governance.
Thank you, and that's time for questions. Councillor Taylor.
Congrats on a good year and you're award-winning, well done. My question relates to the partnership that ended with Eastern Bay. How do you think that's going to affect the total package, if you like?
Oh, I think, thanks for that question. Good question. Unfortunately, we couldn't control the decisions of that council. I won't go into detail. I'm also conscious we're on record as well, but the chair and I actually spoke directly with that decision prior to it, once we found out about it, and then unfortunately what was reported in the council meeting that happened post our conversation was quite different to the reasoning provided. Long story short, to answer your question, we're probably looking at a pay-to-play model in terms of some of those operators, and just to be very clear, that won't drown our resources any more than what it does now. We will charge for that, and that's come at the absolute request of the operators there. So without being drawn into politics, there's not a good relationship there with their resident council, and to the wider coastal proposition, we have always been seen, which is why they've been with us for a long time. So we're probably just going to pick some winners in there and look at a bit more of a pay-to-play in terms of them being alongside us at key things where we know they attract interest as well as what we can do. Yep.
They've obviously had a clearing of the decks, and there's a new council there now. Yep. Is there an opportunity to revisit it?
I am looking forward to finding a date that I might go over and have a chat with some of the new leadership there. I'm also conscious that the leadership's changed, but the management's the same. So again, with some of the conversation we had previously, it was a little bit on the nose, so hopefully we can get past that. But I think ultimately, because I'm also on the board of Regional Tourism New Zealand, and there was something that came out of Whakatane about a week ago in terms of them being a sort of a member of the national body, so nothing to see here, and it was a great move. That was factually incorrect, because I actually approved them being a member, and they're an associate member. So they don't get the approval, because I'm on the board, and I was asked. They don't get the full, so all the MB funding that's coming through, access to campaigns, Kiwi North, all those sorts of things, aren't by default through Whakatane Council. That's all through the RTO network. Yeah.
Just to add to that, from a board point of view, they were a very small funder in our pot, and we are very focused on our funders and what their needs are at the same
It's
time.
$85,000 out of our total.
I understand that it was probably just the part of our story.
Yes. Yeah.
Bit of a shame.
Yeah.
Councillor Roseboom.
Thank you very much for the presentation, and thank you for a very, very successful year. I see the cruise ship numbers are dropping, but the numbers are going up, so obviously you're getting more feet on the ground per cruise ship arrival. Is our infrastructure and venues catered to meet increased demand, and has the tourism operators uplifted to take the extra passenger load per cruise visit?
In the ideal world, no. It's we can always do better. I think a dedicated cruise passenger sort of facility would be great, and potentially a partnership between us, the port, and council at the back of Coronation Park would be a great sort of location. There's been some previous conversations around that. So is it maximised to what it could be? Probably not. That said, have we done a brilliant job, both councillors and some of you are in the room, TCC, the port and ourselves this year to tidy things up? Absolutely. So we've made some massive moves around the Mount parking bylaw regime. We've got some better signage up. The port, to their credit, have directly contracted a new traffic management company, and the team report back on that is going swimmingly well. So I think we're doing really well, and the numbers for people coming to us continue to be strong. It was just a pity, I think it was last weekend, we would have had quite a big ship in, and that got turned around. Again, we can't control the weather. Yeah.
Thank you very much, and thank you, Ross and Oscar, for being here. Kev's got another question he's going to email you, so we can keep to time. But thank you very much, and keep up the great work.
Thank you very much.
And now we're going to invite Te Manuataki Otapapa Limited, Kim Wallace and
Helen Andrews is staff member.
Helen Andrews. Thank you. And your time starts now. Well, Kim's into time management, so.
I am. Kia ora, great to be here again, and as you say, I've got Helen with me, financial analyst. So over 2025, many projects delivered, which I'm sure a number of us have been enjoying, and has been contributed significantly to the revitalisation of Tauranga City Centre, as you said, Jen. Additionally, further to obviously revitalisation, we've got a number of urban landscapes and very inclusive cultural spaces reflecting our rich cultural heritage and ambitious civic aspirations. The Te Manuataki Otapapa Board, key focus continues to be on good risk management and value for money opportunities, which are being pursued aggressively where we can. Pleasingly, over the course of the year, we have seen our stakeholder relationships also continue to strengthen and evolve. walking through the city centre, the public can see the enhanced Tauranga City Centre experience. Photo there is obviously of the northern space and also the playground as well. So on completion of our full programme of work, we'll see over 500 million invested in the city centre to foster community engagement, enrichment, cultural enrichment and city centre revitalisation. There's a number of projects listed there of the current projects. I might just call out the value for money example that we have at the moment, and that is the Memorial Park Aquatic Centre, which has been put on hold at the direction of elected members. Then there will be a concept design that will be advanced through a steering committee, and that will come back to us looking for ways that we can deliver a fantastic new aquatics experience at the existing pool location. As you can see there, the exemplar playground comes again as a highlight. That's an award-winning playground, which was a wonderful highlight for the year as well. Sonia mentioned the low light, and we've heard about the delays of the art gallery. Management of unanticipated building conditions was a significant challenge for us as a board over the year. It required a pause to the project, value engineering, a number of redesigns of engineering solutions, and seeking additional funds, which we had to come back to council and have approved. And we're happy to say that we've delivered what we believe a fit for purpose and a much better art gallery for the future as well. Further highlighting achievements over 2025, I've talked about value for money, so also our health and safety systems. There's a number of deep dive safe site audits that have included also the board looking into high risk activities. This has included things like working at height, hot works, so that's all the work that's happening down at the library at the moment, drug and alcohol management on site with a very busy work site, and also on-site traffic management. We're very pleased with the proactive responses that we're getting to critical safety issues that are being raised as well. And also achieving sustainability standards like Green Star ratings of specific buildings has always also been a great measure of achievement this year. Helen, I'll just pass to you.
Thank you, Kim. Kia ora, board. As you know, the Te Manawa Take Ōpata Papa Limited CCO covers basically the costs of the operational costs of the board and its related support, and not the projects themselves, which are obviously part of the capital programme. So just going back to the results for this year, the first half of the year was pretty busy for us as a CCO, with getting the two key projects of the library and CWEM into the approval process for construction. So that led to quite a significant amount of technical assistance required from one of our contractors, and quite a bit more support from the board support team. That led at half year to about a $68,000 over budget performance, which we reported on at the time. But since then, for the second half of the year, we've been very cognizant of the value for money approach that the council has put forward. And that's included things like pulling back board meetings to more of an online scenario more often than not, and being very cognizant of the use of the contractors. So we restrict that to absolutely when they're needed. And what that has led to is, although we haven't pulled back that whole 68,000 that we had at the half-year point, we've managed to reduce that down to about 43,000 over the course of the year, which is about 7% over budget. This financial year, we're very, very focused on making sure that we do keep those costs as light as possible, and that's also feeding into the annual plan for 2027 as well. So we're looking to keep reducing those costs where we can and making sure that we don't incur anything that we don't absolutely necessarily have to. That's pretty much all I have to say on the financials, really.
And last slide, finally, over 2026 and looking forward, we're very much looking forward to the completion of the library. So that'll be handed over from practical completion by June, and being in there yesterday, we are definitely ahead of program at the moment, which is fantastic. Obviously advancing construction of the adjoining CWIM site, so that's Civic Whare Exhibition and Museum, and you can see that there on the photo, and also setting out of the precinct landscaping and street works, so that's also something that's coming up for consideration. Value for money will continue to be at the centre of our attention and ensuring that we continue to deliver the projects efficiently and effectively. And lastly, thank you for giving us the opportunity to present our 2025 annual report today.
Thank you very much. Any questions? Councillor Taylor.
Thank you, Kim, and good work this year. Big, massive project coming out of the ground down the road. It looks magnificent. It's more of a query just for my interest. One of your goals was to do with health and safety, and you did mention that. It says it wasn't measured in the report we got, but you obviously have been working with your contractors. Probably where I'm interested in is we're a governance board.
Mm-hmm.
I would have thought the health and safety issues would have lay in with the contractors.
Yes, that's exactly right. I think that's the answer to the question, is that we rely upon the contractor doing their own health and safety as a PCBU. They are the entity that has the most influence over the site. They have significant health and safety reporting. We have full access to that. We, as I said yesterday, with high-vis on, a number of the directors went down to the library. We could see and speak directly with staff down there about their health and safety. So the reason why it says it's not measured is because we don't attempt to measure it as a PCBU, an interested party. We rely upon their reporting of health and safety. Is that correct?
Yes. Right, good clarification, and obviously you're focused on it, which is great.
Oh, heavily focused, Rod. Mm-hmm.
Just a question for me, and having just been up to Auckland, having a look at some developments and some of the developments that are actually adding colour to the landscape. And I look out at the library, and it's got beautiful shapes, but they're sort of dark grey, and this is sort of beige. And I did see your branding, and I love the fact there's a blue and there's a green and there's a pink. And I know in this building, I love the fact we're a Pohutakawa. But I just wonder, is there a intentional that this is sort of not adding colour to the landscape, or is that something that just has happened?
I can see Gareth's got his head down, but you're probably the staff member that was here the longest that might have an idea about the colour of Te Manawa and the way that the architects, so Studio Pacific Architects, drew up the design and the architecture for the library, and then we had Warren and Mani over to the right with the Civic Whare and Exhibition and Museum. I wasn't engaged at the time around the colour of the buildings, so I'm not 100% sure on the answer to that, Jen.
We talk about vibrancy, and I just...
Yeah.
I've got nothing.
Okay.
Thanks, Gareth.
End of question, that's fine. I wanted to ask.
So,
Okay.
no, I'm not too sure, and just also pointing out, we obviously have Mana Whenua also helping us with all the cultural designs. Having been into the library yesterday, it is terrific. It's like 90 Devonport. There is just phenomenal, artwork that's underway right now, and it looks, really fantastic. Lots of colour in the children's education space and things like that. So I think inside the building, hopefully we get that engagement. But no.
Good, okay. And the branding was, so,
Yeah.
Councillor Morris, in 27 seconds.
Thank you. Yeah, appreciated annual reports backward looking, but forwards looking, everything's still meeting timeframes with the CWIM and in particular.
We're actually a little bit ahead of program at the moment. We were over at both sites yesterday, so we were over at the Civic Whare. You would see the walls up and the foundation in, and yes, when I talked to the project manager down there, everything is going well.
And tracking the budget?
Yes, oh yes,
Awesome.
yes,
Yeah,
yes. We
good.
report on that every single month, and yes, we are under budget at the moment. And contingencies are, most importantly, contingencies are intact.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Kim and Helen.
Thank you.
Now we welcome the Te Manawa Taki o Te Papa Charitable Trust. welcome Emily and Ra.
Kia ora.
Kia
Kia ora
ora.
tātou, te kaunihira, ngā mihi kauana kia koutou katoa. Aha ko ka mawīwi tonu a Puhiraki, ka haere tonu tātou. So we're just putting in our apologies for Puhi, who has been unwell. He is on the mend, but we're hoping to see him at the table again soon.
And please take our warm wishes back to him. It was lovely seeing him and you, Emily, online the other day. But please do take our warm wishes. He is mentioned frequently.
Kia ora, thank you. Ours is probably the shortest report out of everyone, hopefully. So Te Manawataki o Te Papa Charitable Trust, just very quickly the history, and you probably all know it, but it was originally land gifted to the Church Missionary Society, and it was supposed to be for the benefit of Māori and the church, but over time it faced increasing pressure on the land at Te Papa here, and it was reluctantly given back to the Crown, and so that has led up to why this trust has been set up. In 2022, Te Manawataki o Te Papa Charitable Trust was established to acknowledge this area, and particularly to acknowledge mana whenua in partnership with Tauranga City Council, and that it would be recognised in terms of the civic precinct area, and you can see that area on the map there. So just a quick bit of history. And so represented by the council on the charitable trust is the mayor and the CEO. And myself and Emily are the directors of O Tamataha Whenua Limited, as well as Puhiraki, and Alan is assisting as well. So there has been a statement of intent which basically guides our direction, and in that statement of intent it is basically to support and encourage the development of a vibrant civic precinct. And I guess one of the key things that we see as part of that is ensuring that it's available for the community, it's available for enhances cultural, as well as there may be some commercial aspects in there that could be developed in the future. So it ensures that the significant history and mana of the area is retained, particularly in that block, and to foster stakeholder relationships are some of the key items from the statement of intent for the charitable trust. And I'll hand over to Emily.
Kia ora koutou. Kia ora te wā tangata whenua up on the screen there. Thank you for your well wishes for Puhiraki. I have clipped his wings. He's not very happy with me.
We've heard that.
But he is not far from being here, I can assure you. So Ra's covered off pretty much the key activities of the Charitable Trust. It exists for the sole purposes of the ownership of the joint landowners Site A. Essentially it forms, or for us, it is part of how we represent what partnership looks like between mana whenua and our Tauranga City Council. So that is a key driver for us really, in so much as enduring relationships is what is important. And that is well reflected in what we've managed to achieve here. So with the, Lars already covered off the statement of intent. You're quite right, we don't have any financial activity moving through this particular charitable trust. But one of the key deliverables that has come out of, I guess, alongside of the Te Manawataki o Te Papa redevelopment is the ability for us to have a repository of all these wonderful cultural representations that you see, or starting to see, reflected in the, as you quite rightly pointed out, the vibrancy of our city. And for us, that is exactly where you will find that vibrancy. It is in the cultural richness of those stories, and how we can encapsulate that and then share that with our wider community and then globally with those that visit this city. So the Charitable Trust met on that particular matter and agreed to take responsibility for developing that repository. So in a sense, we're starting to, and I tried to write something quite fancy earlier on, but it was about creating tomorrow's history today. So capturing everything that we're doing today, because it will become part of tomorrow's history for our future generations. And for us, we think in 4 generations. So our mukumukos, our grandchildren's grandchildren. So that is essentially where the, I guess, the intent of what our statement of intent looks like as we sit in this space. Yeah, and I think that kind of rounds it off quite nicely. It is about a working relationship between us as mana whenua and yourselves as the elected members of Tauranga City Council, and of course the elected members that will precede you.
Kia ora.
Right, open to questions.
Councillor Taylor.
The project's coming out of the ground. What was an empty site for a long time, and we're starting to see some stuff. So, what's your feeling? Like looking at that and seeing something real come out of the ground? Just like to get an idea of what it means.
Yeah, I mean, I think like everyone who walks past it, as you start seeing it grow, it's looking pretty amazing. If I can just briefly mention, when this building was built, there were some learnings from it in terms of the cultural input into it, and that our artists weren't necessarily, they gave the designs but weren't involved in the whole process, and so what we ended up with didn't quite hit the mark. But there's been a whole lot of communication between Mike's team as well as Kim's team, and our team are fully involved with all of the process now, and we're delighted with some of the outcomes. Yep.
Thank you very much. Yeah. 2 other CCOs have to thank you because you've given the time back. Thank you very much. And Caroline, oh no, we've now got there is a resolution in the papers to...
Wait, there's one more.
Oh, sorry, Boplas, sorry. I turned the page too soon. Apologies, I didn't see you come in, Stephen. Bay of Plenty Local Authority Shared Services Limited. Stephen Boyle, welcome.
Thank you. Tēnā koutou katoa, and thank you for the opportunity to update Council on Boplas and the value being delivered to TCC and our other 8 shareholding councils. Our Chair, Craig O'Connell, provides his apologies. He was unable to attend today. Boplas is owned by the 9 councils in the Bay of Plenty and Gisborne regions and was established to facilitate collaboration between councils across the wider region. We remain a very lean organisation. We still only have 2.5 FTE. I'm the only full-time employee from the organisation, and we continue to deliver a very good return on investment to our shareholding councils. 2024-25 was a very successful year for Boplas and ultimately for our shareholding councils, with a number of new initiatives undertaken and significant savings provided back to our councils. Additionally, all of our statement of intent performance measures were achieved. It's been a very busy year, as you will note from the extensive list of our current projects on page 8 to 16 of the annual report. And I'm not going to talk to all of them, but I'd like to use this opportunity to provide Council with an overview of just some of our key projects and successes. One of our larger projects is solid waste management, and Boplas is leading a combined Waikato, Bay of Plenty and Gisborne project for the establishment of a waste operator and licensing data system. And that's going to manage all waste operators across the regions. This shared service is going to benefit councils and waste contractors by establishing consistency across the region and more accurate reporting of waste streams. It's also going to reduce the amount of administration required by council staff. The next project, the Boplas Collective Aerial Imagery Program, is a great example of councils working together and doing it once rather than there being 9 separate work programs. 2 collective tenders for updated urban and rural imagery were awarded last year, and that resulted in financial savings for all of councils, but also delivered efficiencies in the capture and the ongoing management of the data. The Boplas Collective Insurance Program has had further successes over the last year. Insurance represents a significant spend for councils, and as you'll be aware, insurance costs have been skyrocketing and have become a major inflationary cost, not only in New Zealand but worldwide. Fortunately for Boplas councils, our collective insurance program has developed very good leverage within the international markets. Normally I present to councils on how we've been able to minimise the impact of ongoing premium increases through our collective program. However, last year we were able to do even better than that, and in the case of the council's infrastructure policies, we achieved a 5% overall rate saving when compared with the prior year, and this is at a time when insurance is increasing. This equates to a premium saving in excess of $900,000 for our councils, representing a substantial insurance premium saving for them. And although my update today is focused on the 24-25 year, I'm enthusiastic about sharing the results of the 25-26 renewal, which closed last week and is effective from the 1st of November. We've continued to build on the same market engagement strategy as last year, and this year we've achieved premium savings in excess of $2.5 million for the Bop Less councils, along with improved insurance terms. And I suspect it's not often that someone's in front of council advising you that you'll be paying less, significantly less next year. Thank you. Our collective approach to insurance is providing substantial long-term savings for councils, with the Bop Less program now saving our councils over $20 million in premiums since inception. So that's a very quick snapshot of some of our key projects from last year, and as I mentioned, there's others in the annual report, and I'm happy to take any questions on those. Quickly speaking further to the financial savings, I just want to highlight that Bop Less is not a CCO that's a drain on councils. It's quite the opposite. The 24-25 estimated savings for the Bop Less group is $2.7 million. There's been over $37 million saved for our councils since inception. And as you're aware, Bop Less is a small organisation and doesn't carry a lot of overheads. With the savings returned to council, we represent a very good return on investment to our shareholders. Quickly looking forward for the next year, while Bop Less is going to continue to maximise the value returned to our councils through the management of our existing contracts, new joint procurement and shared service opportunities continue to be developed. Our board have asked us to focus on developing further shared service opportunities, and some of those current opportunities being investigated are high volume print, archives, both physical and electronic, debt management services, inter-council secondments, and developing a solid waste regional facilities strategy. So they're all shared services that are currently being investigated for the next, or for the current financial year. Some of these projects are being undertaken in conjunction with the other two LES, and some are just across the Bop Less councils. And the final point, just on financial performance for last year, the company remained on target throughout 24-25. Turnover was slightly higher than budget, but that was due to some additional projects we took on during the year. And we finished the year very close to our zero target, finishing with a small deficit of 9,200. So happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much. A nice succinct report. Thank you. Councillor Crowther.
You're good to see you, Stephen. I guess, well, actually, I'm interested in the waste thing, making sure that you're liaising with our staff and, more importantly, they're liaising with you. But the main question was, do you think we're making the most of the Bop Less structure and connectivity that you offer? And I'm thinking in terms of something like our digital infrastructure needed for our water CCO. You know, I don't think you're involved. You know, do you see opportunities where you can be utilised to deliver better value for our ratepayers here?
So the first question, working with staff around waste, yes, they're actively involved in the project, and yeah, same with any of the councils that are involved with it. Other opportunities for Bop Less to be involved in to assist councils, yes, there's absolutely no shortage of opportunities. The challenge for me is there's a shortage of resource, so we can only get involved in projects where we have enough resource to be able to deliver our current results as well.
I guess if we offered the same resource internally, do you see opportunities to get better return on that investment by a collaboration through Bop Less?
Yes, well, ideally, if we can tap into council resource, then they can be involved in Bop Less projects, and that's a conversation that we've had recently with the board, whether that's a model that we should be exploring. So.
Thank you, and also just the high volume print. I assume you talk to all of us in that regard. Just to me, are we still printing high volumes of things?
That's interesting actually, because general print volumes from councils obviously ended up almost on zero during COVID, and then when people came back, they've crept up, and according to the Bopless provider across the Bopless councils, volumes are back to what they were pre-COVID. So it's been quite an interesting situation that people did realise for a while they didn't need to print, but have gone back to it. But that's not the print that this project's looking at. This project's looking at things like rates notices, for example, where there's high volume print runs, and a lot of that's being outsourced at the moment. And surveying across our councils, it seems that there's a big variance in what people are paying, and there's some councils that have put in commercial type printers into their premises for these intermittent print runs, and whether that's justifiable, and they may be able to even take on printing on behalf of other councils as well. So that's where the project's looking to try and streamline those services and save money. So, yeah.
And we've certainly have asked, we're seeking information about our print room that we have with some of that equipment, so we welcome that review.
Yeah, so we've already been working with TCC around that as well. So, and they've sort of identified similar challenges to what most of the councils are. So it's actually good timing to be looking at it now. So yeah.
Good. Thank you very much. Thanks for coming in, and well done, and keep up the good work.
Thanks very much.
Have anyone got any questions of Caroline, or should we just put the motion on the table? If we put the motion up, please. No questions of staff. So we have got a motion that the City Delivery Committee receives the report Council Controlled Organisations Annual Reports 24-25 and lists the 6 annual reports that we are approving. Can I have a mover and a seconder, please? Moved by Councillor Taylor, seconded by Councillor Crowther. Thank you. Do you want to say anything?
A lot of work through a lot of people. If we look at the numbers in all our CCOs, there's a lot of effort that happens on behalf of council, but outside the normal council structure. So it's good to have a catch-up, at least annually, and understand how these things operate. So well done to all the CCOs that are reported, and I think generally some good results this year.
Councillor Crowther.
Yeah, thank you to staff and to all the CCO governance and employees. I think for me there is an opportunity on that last issue with Bopless. I think it's something Councillor Kuruk and I raised in the December meeting last year around more collaboration between councils. I've obviously constantly pushed that through the waters reform discussions within the Bay of Plenty. I don't think we're utilising that anywhere near enough. Yes, they need money, but we spend heaps of money internally. We could channel that, and I think we could get some good outcomes, because obviously they seem to know their stuff based on previous discussions and involvement that I've had in some of these issues. In terms of some specifics, I am, as I kind of alluded to with my question around the Tauranga Art Gallery, I'm concerned at the lack of ability to get access to information to do our job for the people of Tauranga, to provide assurance to them that we're getting good value. I don't feel we are at the moment with the Tauranga Art Gallery, and I have real concerns about the future there unless we take some action around that.
Would you like to put that as an action? I think it's sensible.
Yep.
Are you able to word an action for Caroline?
I guess
Caroline.
Well, I guess perhaps if we collaboratively word it, because I'm not quite sure what the action should be.
Are we all happy that an action is put forward in regard to the earlier question and it comes back to this committee?
Yep.
You need to turn off.
I turned you off, Glenn. I'm on now. I wonder whether a council resolution is, or committee resolution rather, is even better.
Okay.
Well, I'll let my learned colleague maybe think up the wording and when he speaks, and I'll just finish off by saying I have some concerns about the Bay venues, the financial situation there. I understand these things get complex, and we have various debt retirement grants, and we have, what's the other one, debt servicing grants, and so it is inherently complex. But I think the bottom line on this is that we are paying more for BBL than is easily able to be seen in the accounts. And I think that's the precise opposite of what we want with transparency. We have some numbers correlating between our annual report and their annual report, but some do not. I'm not saying they're not correct, it's just they don't match. They're talked about in different ways or not in one or other report. And we don't even know the financing implications of the $1 million Waikato loan guarantee to Waikato University that relates to BBL. What is the sort of potential risk there? So there's a lot of those little things, but probably the biggest one is that we asked for cost savings, but at the end of it all, they just had much reduced revenue. What is it, 0.83 million user fees below budget. So sure, we got 0.84 million of cost savings, but that was just equating almost precisely to the lack of revenue that they got elsewhere as well. So to me, we're sort of going around a little bit in circles with the CCOs in terms of trying to drive efficiency and drive value, but more importantly, to reduce the costs to the ratepayer as well. And
So have you got a solution to how we might
I think we
that
need
one?
a standardised accounting treatment for all the CCOs to have come up with we're working on now, I think, an internal process where we talk about debt in certain ways. We lay it out in terms of particular financial years and particular budgets or forecasts. And we need all the CCOs, in my view, to just follow the same template. So we have a standardised template for all the CCOs, and they have to follow it if they want to get the grants. And that's our power. We can kind of use leverage. But it sounds like I'm sounding a bit extreme, but we can't get information we need. So if we have to go to that extent of cutting grants, then maybe they will cooperate. And I'm only really referring to one who hasn't so far.
So can we, I think that's a good action. I don't know if I'll put the cutting grants bit in it, but if we have an action of review the ability to have standardised accounting treatment and reporting across all CCOs. Please.
Question the Deputy Mayor, Chair and Councillor Crowther. In terms of the information sought from Tauranga Art Gallery Trust and also the message that the committee wishes to convey, is it that the committee sees the before mentioned information and it's a formal request of the committee, or is it that the committee notes its concern around a refusal to provide a piece of advice and request that it be provided forthwith, or is it a review, perhaps a legal review of elected members' access to CCO information?
I would personally like to hold off the legal review in the hope that the CCO will respond more favourably without spending money on a legal review or time or whatever. But I would like both those things, but in particular not to be isolated to this one request for information, because this is the third time relating to this last financial year that I've been refused information, and I've felt it's quite important. In one case it led to a multi-million-dollar blowout in costs that I'd been refused information about initially. So it just means, and then it gets presented as though it's new information and I knew about it 3 months earlier. So to me that's a serious issue that costs our ratepayers a lot of money. I'm not saying we could have reduced that cost, but there might have been a chance to get on top of it quicker. But either way, we need access to that. So it shouldn't be just related to the current issue around the cafe, but to all requests for information that elected members need to ensure good governance.
So I just wondered if that CCOs respond proactively to questions from elected members and information is not withheld as a resolution. Yes, Councillor Carrick.
Sorry if I can just butt in. I think that wording sounds good, and maybe the committee notes its concern that information requested has been withheld, and then, Madam Chair, the wording of what you said, I think that would nail the intent, perhaps, of what the two committee members are asking for.
That information has been withheld and resolves that CCOs respond proactively to questions from elected members and information is not withheld. Yes, Councillor Correct.
Could that be expressed in the letters of expectation that go to the CCOs, to all CCOs?
Yes, it could.
Just exactly what you read out there.
Well, we could resolve it and resolve that it's included in all future letters of expectation. No? Was that a no from... No, I thought you pulled a face. Oh, sorry. Yeah, we're going to put it up.
Through you, Madam Chair,
Yes, yes, please.
You wouldn't need necessarily to resolve that. We'll just note the letters of expectation because they're coming back to you on the 18th of November. So we'll just add a piece into each of those which is consistent with this. If you choose to resolve, that's fine. But
I'd like to resolve it. I think it's here and now, and we've had this issue, and we'd like it resolved. So I would like it as a resolution. Oh yeah, we can just add it to there.
It's not
that information is twice. Information has been withheld and resolves that CCOs are practical questions from elected members were not withheld. A little bit clumsy, but didn't hear that, sorry.
You need to add the entity that we're talking about in the art gallery.
Okay, and information is not withheld by the CCOs, by this. Now that's a bit clumsy again.
You know, the fact that information has been withheld, we can't have it as a general. That needs to be specific. And then the rest being held by Tauranga Art Gallery Trust, and then the rest. Because otherwise you're inferring that the others are doing it
Okay,
also.
right. Okay, so this is we're trying to we noted that there was a risk in terms of the financial viability of Tauranga Art Gallery Trust as a CCO in terms of its business case to be a feasible entity was based on needing revenue from a cafe. We know that the ability for cafes around the city with more coming in, their ability to make profits is lower, and so we had a risk. We acknowledged there was a risk there. We wanted more information about it, and that wasn't shared. Councillor Morris.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Councillor Crowther, for catching that apostrophe. You know it triggers me. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. Just a question, and it does relate to amendments or things that have been created by the table for implementation by council officers. If this resolution C passes, how will that resolution be given effect to, or how will it be communicated to the named party, which isn't yet named?
We haven't named yet.
Yeah.
Do we need to? Do we need to name or pass that naming?
Sorry,
No, please.
I'm taking liberties, but I think, as Councillor Kurak has said, my experience with other CCOs is that they have been quick and proactive to respond to information. So I think that if there is an issue with one CCO in one circumstance where that's not occurred, I think it needs to be specific. And then, of course, it's in the committee's hands whether that resolution gets passed.
Without the first G. TAGT, Tauranga Art Gallery Trust.
And instead of putting in information as
Yeah, so that's a better way of saying resolves that CCOs respond proactively to questions from elected members and provide information requested, as requested.
So I'm trifling with the chair. The second part of my question was how will this resolution be implemented? Because we're noting a concern and we're making a request, so just wondering how officers will implement that
I
if
might
it's
ask
passed.
Jeremy to respond to that.
So in the first instance, we would take that resolution and forward it to the chairs and general managers of all the CCOs, because it mentions all CCOs. And then it's a case, from then on, it's a case-by-case issue as things come up. It's another tool in your armoury, potentially, to say we passed a resolution. But I guess the question then is, so what happens next? You have some tools under the Local Government Act around around CCOs. You can
respond.
Unilaterally change their SOI if you choose to, but it's their SOI until then. But it's
CCOs respond.
Overall, it's a relationship conversation.
Are you happy with that? So if the mover and seconder are happy with that addition to the substantive? That's you two. Oh, no, Taylor and that side. You may.
Is this how you would handle this?
A question which won't be answered.
Sorry, Jackie, yes.
I guess there's a...
Sorry to put you on the spot, but like you're aware of what's been going on, and so I'm asking your opinion.
So in previous council experiences, an escalation route might be, we've asked via email, it's not coming through, so we'll ask the mayor to write a formal letter to the chair and just escalate it up a fraction that way. You taking a route through a committee, that's another escalation route. I guess what you're doing is you're telling the Tauranga Art Gallery Trust in this instance that you're serious. You want this information, you feel that it's necessary for your roles as governors of governors. And at the moment, the Art Gallery Trust is saying this can stick with the first set of governors, it doesn't need to go to the governors of governors. So you've just got a standoff.
Yes, I'm happy with it.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so now absolutely. Sorry, Councillor Roseboom. And sorry, then Jackie.
Yeah, I don't actually support this. I'd far sooner do this through the letter of expectation, so I'd like this taken as a division, thanks, in parts.
Tangata Whenua Representative Jackie Rollison-Steed. You've been patient, sorry.
All good. Probably a bit of a closing statement from me anyway, just because I'm going to get kicked out of my hotel room any minute now. So before I excuse myself, just wondering if even within, if something is going to, if there's a resolution, and in lieu of, actually, sorry, I didn't hear Jeremy's comment, if this resolution passes, maybe there's an opportunity to insert a similar narrative going forward under the requirement to report. So under each of the agenda items, obviously you've got your statement of intent when it comes to reporting, but there could be an opportunity to just insert a narrative a little bit more explicitly in there as well, because it definitely fleshes out what the reporting requirements are. So I'll just leave it there, and I'm just going to say goodbye if that's okay.
Kia ora. Thank you.
Thank you. Ka kite.
Ka kite. Councillor Schuler.
Yeah, appreciate the frustration that Councillor Crowther has on C, but I wouldn't support it as a resolution. I'd support it as described in terms of there's more communication that we can have at a lower level, I believe, to work through this relationship and get the outcome that satisfies our questions around risk. And if we're aligned and we are trying to deliver this, both us and the art gallery, for the benefit of the community, there should be a way through it. So to me, this is heavy-handed. I would prefer we did it through either the letters of expectation or some further communication. So I won't support C.
Councillor Morris.
I understand the sentiments of the previous two speakers, Councillor Roseboom and Councillor Schuler. My concern would be that having tabled the resolution, that withdrawing it or voting it down conveys the opposite message around the seriousness. So I think in that case, given that it's tabled, it needs to be supported. Otherwise, it conveys a message of not seriousness, or in my view.
You've had your say. So, just in terms of this, I think absolutely it is. It is quite harsh, but we've actually, this is not the first time, and we failed to get a resolution the first time. Well, the first time I'm aware of 3 times, and receiving the email that said we're not going to share that information, I think was was bold from a council-controlled organisation, and I think we have had conversations, and I am in support of this addition to the motion C. Would you like to finish off the conversation, Councillor Taylor?
Yep, it is a bit harsh, but I take Jeremy's point. Escalation, I think, was needed here. So that's point C. I don't want to dwell on point C because it detracts from all the good work that A and B had following them up. And I'd like to reiterate what I said right at the beginning. Great work from all our CCOs over the 12 months, including TAGT, who have a big event next week, and I don't want to detract from that. They'd be congratulated on where they've ended up, but we do need to get that information. So, yep.
Okay, so I'm going to take A and B separately to C, so that the City Delivery Committee receives the council-controlled organisation annual reports and lists them out. All those in favour? Against? That is carried, thank you. And C, the committee notes its concern that information has been withheld by Tauranga Art Gallery Trust, and resolves that CCOs respond proactively to questions from elected members and provide information as requested. All those in favour, raise your hand. And against? That is carried by division. Thank you. As Catherine's right beside me, we'll take the Local Government Funding Agency Annual Report and Annual General Meeting Shareholder Voting Paper 9.4, which is page... No, page... Anyone got page? Oh, yeah, page 92 of the main agenda. We'll take the paper as read. Any questions for Catherine? Oh, sorry, or Caroline. Apologies. You're covering very different topics today. I think the one thing I would like to say on this is that on F, we did think that we should name Catherine Sharplin as the chair of the... Is that the case?
No, sorry. It's the chair of the board, as we were going to make the proxy. We do that most years. Rather than chair of the Shareholders' Council as a proxy. Just in case something happened and I didn't make it to the meeting, at least we know it's going to go through.
Oh, so that's actually saying that we're not giving it to you, we're giving it to the chair in case you're not there. Right, apologies. I did not read that way. Yes, that's fine to me. Questions? Councillor Crowther.
Any insight into the lack of green, social and sustainability loans and climate action loans? Is that sort of something that's just a general trend in society, or do we know if there's something particularly for New Zealand councils around not achieving the goals there?
Through the Deputy Mayor, I'm not too sure about that, Councillor Crowther. I can find out from the LGFA and get back to you. I do know that they did give approval for one GSS loan to TCC for the Te Manawa o Te Papa project, but I'll get back to you on that one.
Just through the chair, they have had quite a lot of success with their green loans and quite a lot of interest. So it will be a volume-based measure, I would imagine, of how many they put through. Yeah.
Councillor Taylor.
This question is probably for Catherine. The RAS scheme, is that a likely thing? Do you know how?
It's an ongoing conversation with government, and I understand the business case has gone to government, and the minister is keen on it. So we are expecting it will proceed. It's just a matter of working its way through, and then working through with all the different shareholders, because most councils are in support, and certainly most councils, but not all councils represented on the Shareholders' Council are in support. It is an opportunity for individual councils rather than a collective compulsory option. So it is likely to proceed, but there'll be more information on that early in the new year.
There being no other questions, can I have a mover and seconder to the resolution, please? Mover, Councillor Roseboom. Seconder, Councillor Crowther. Would you like to speak to it, Councillor Roseboom? Anybody want to have a conversation about it? Seconder? Okay, so I put that resolution that's up there. It's too big to read out at this stage of the afternoon. And I would ask all those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? That is carried. Thank you. And we've got variable something or other. Variable speed limit update and speed limit proposals. Welcome back Karen Hay and Mike Seaborn. Thank you for your patience.
Kia ora, councillors, saving the best to last. Councillors, hopefully we can take this, the report by as read, but I think we've had some questions in around process, so maybe I'll leave it to Karen to start to just to fill us in on the process and the policy surrounding variable speed limits. It's slightly different from normal.
Yeah. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Madam Chair. The new speed limit rule has two distinct processes around setting of speed limits. The one is variable speed limits outside schools. That's limited to specific 45 minutes before and after school, in a nutshell. The two distinct differences around those two, a permanent speed limit and a variable speed limit, is that there's very distinct requirements in terms of the extent that the variable speed limit can apply. And what we as officers or staff need to do is we develop maps, we consult with the schools, although public consultation is not mandated by that process. We then submit it, we then come to council to endorse. That then gets submitted to NZTA together with all the material and the evidence surrounding that. Goes to the director of NZTA for approval. They come back and say it's endorsed. That then enables us to implement those changes. Distinct to the permanent speed limits, you have to consult and consult widely. And the new speed limit rule requires, and if I may, sorry, just step back. So the outcome the new rule is needing to achieve, or wanting us to achieve, is to not only take into account the safety benefits, but the impacts, economic impacts, as well as community views. So what we need to do with any new proposed speed limits is consult on those, and we have to prepare a benefit cost disclosure statement that in simple terms says your travel delay is X. I hope that explains possibly the process.
Thank you, Karen. Councillor Morris.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just in regard to the land transport rule and requiring the variable speed limit times outside schools, why is NZTA or some other government agency not funding 100% of the implementation of their rule? And the way I'm reading the report, looks like 49% of the cost of it's put on ratepayers. Is that correct?
That's correct. No, I was wondering how I shall answer that question, Councillor.
Out of my pay grade,
I might
it's
take
okay.
one of those ones. Thank you. And to your point, Councillor, we are only funded to the financial assistant rate, but it has been that way in through time, and speed changes have been, I guess, in previous years, few and far between from a central government mandated thing. I think this is a policy being used to be reversed another policy, so it feels a lot bigger than usual. But yes, that's exactly what happens.
I had a question on Gasson Lane, and there was not a map, but it's not that short a road. Several residents submitted responses, and I'm aware of your number, I think 800,000 consultation costs for the 4 projects, so there'll be a share for doing Gasson Lane. When we say several residents, if I had 4 residents on my street that asked to have a change of speed on our street, what's the number, and what number does that have to be to come to council as a paper, as a recommendation?
Madam Chair, it could be one person. It depends on the problem that we're seeking to solve. So the problem that they're seeking to solve is the volume of students that catch the bus. So if that one person raises the issue and it's valid, then we would take that into account. And so in this particular instance, that's the problem we're seeking to solve. If it was 10 people and there wasn't an issue, perhaps we would then suggest that we wouldn't be able to support it and progress it because the evidence isn't there to support such a change.
And so you believe the evidence is there?
I think there's sufficient evidence and understanding of the number of kids or students, I shouldn't call them kids, students that catch the bus from that surrounding community. That said, it has to go through a consultation process. And in this instance, we're proposing to do bulk consultation on all the changes and the rollout of the variable speed limits to limit cost. And it will be
Are we still talking 800,000?
Oh,
is that the
no.
number? What was the...
I would say the consultation component for the variable speed limits and the entire is budgeted for around 15,000.
Where did I get that number from?
The 800,000 is for the rollout of all the variable speed limit changes.
Right. And so just by comparison, we had Deborah, somebody come and present to us about safety issues getting on off the buses around Mount Maunganui, and I think the action is that she's going to get a letter. So can you tell me that was a safety issue that seemed very valid to me. Can you tell me why this one comes to council and might be consulted on versus she gets a letter?
Oh, we are absolutely, we've consulted. We believe the issues that Debs has raised is valid in terms of accessibility to the hot pools. We've completed consultation with adjacent residents or businesses or the apartments. So we've taken that in her instance, they are very valid. So we've just gone through that process and happy to report the outcome, just finalising, closing that out.
Okay.
And through you, Madam Chair, the tasks earlier in the day did have that action as closed.
Yeah.
But it isn't closed. We've got to go through this consultation and confirm that change yet. So that's incorrectly noted as closed.
Right, okay, that's why I'm confused. Okay, thank you. Councillor Schuler.
Thank you, Chair. I'm just curious on Domain Road and the history there. and it's not up, but having seen the map. So, reverting to the signposted temporary limit, you're looking at going back to the 80 kilometre, or keeping the 80 kilometre per hour speed on that. And then I understand the Commission rejected the concept of going to 60 permanently. I suppose, understand in principle that that's a main route, but I was just wondering, you've got traffic coming off a motorway slowing down through 2 roundabouts. You wouldn't be likely doing 80 kilometres an hour through those. Then you're turning off to go up the main road, which is heading to a residential area within 500 metres. I get the fact that the road it is, and it's not in this tight jurisdiction of the residential, but it just seems odd that you're going to be happy for traffic to boost itself back up to 80 kilometres an hour just to straight away after 500 metres slow down to 50. Just the logic behind that. I know we have to consult, so public will get a say, but just curious.
Through you, Madam Chair, I'll try and not say anything that Karen doesn't want me to say, but I think what you're experiencing and other customers experience there is that speed change, and it feels out of character, and especially with the urban area. And I think that's a good classic case of where our urban fringe had a rural boundary. The speed limit was that for that. And we went out to consultation around that as a council some years ago. The community was not in support. I think it's clear to say that around New Zealand, speed changes that have been implemented that don't have community support are not a great way to get the right outcome. And so, and I think it's maybe cautious, and it does leave some risk on the network, but at the same time, not having community support also creates risk of people obeying the speed limit and so on and so forth, and further actions by council having to take later down the road. So, it's the kind of thing that we need to keep monitoring and that we will get to review. And we do have a project here on Domain Road considering a cycleway or an expansion of that road. So we can actually have a look at that and use that process to consult again. But council has 2 options. We can even consult on this again if council so desires outside of that project as well. But I guess the last known point of contact and decision making was at the time the community wasn't supportive, quite low, and so the decision was made not to proceed with the speed change.
When was that recent?
Through you, Madam Chair, it was in 2023. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Karen and Mike. There is a motion to put forward. Would anyone like to move the motion? Councillor Taylor, second Councillor Roseboom. Do you want to speak to it, Councillor Taylor? Sorry, I'm running out of words.
All I'd say is obviously none of us are in a lot of these areas. They're areas that the residents have got concerns, and I'm talking mainly about Gasson Lane. We should be listening to the residents. They're the ones that live in this small road, and they've asked for the change. So yeah, consulting, we'll find that out.
I fully support all these going to consultation. Truman Lane, definitely during the construction phase, being at 50k an hour, definitely made getting in and out of the Bay Park and the dump easier. Gave people less time to have an accident. Glaston Lane is actually part of my ward, and yes, it is a very narrow lane, and kids walking down that road, there's no room for a car and a student walking down the street. So having a lower speed limit there is definitely beneficial, although having experienced this in the rural area, these things are normally short-lived. Families have kids, they spend 10 years, then the problem tends to go away again, but we'll come back to that at a later date. It'll be part of residential Tauranga by then, I would imagine. And Domain Road, yeah, it does make sense to have a staged progression off the expressway down to 50 k's, and 80 clears the intersection quite quickly. So no, I'm in support of these.
Can we assume this is no additional budget, there's no request, so therefore there's none being approved? Correct. Okay. Okay, so that debate being over, I will ask all those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Those against, that is carried. Thank you. Please don't tell me I've missed one out. I think we've got to the end of our 2 agendas.
No discussions on closing karaoke.
Yeah, we've got that one.
Yeah.
So I would ask Councillor Morris for a closing karakia.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you everybody for your efforts today, and more importantly, the work that went in behind the items on the agenda today from this building and out in our community. He I noi tātou, let us pray. E te atua tēnā koe mō te hui, ka tēnei rā, mō te kororeo, mō te mahi, o kai mahi. Amene.
Thank you all. Well done.
Meeting closed at?
The meeting closed at whatever time it is. 4:36. Surely not.
No,
The timing was great,
14:43.
ladies, too. Thank you. Yeah. I'm looking at the.
Are you muted?
Oh.
All muted?